everybody. This is Chris.
And Kathy.
We wanted to take a minute to thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate every listener and are grateful for this platform.
Please help us share our vision by subscribing to our show through your favorite streaming app. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at PetAbility Podcast.
Check out our ever-growing list of affiliates and sponsors. Simply go to the show notes for information and links.
And be sure to use our promo code PETPOD22, that's PETPOD22, on checkout to receive your discount from our affiliates. And now, here's a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Alon Landa, CEO of MedcoVet, and I'm a proud sponsor of PetAbility. We decided to partner with Chris and Kathy because, like them, we want to empower all pet owners who are trying to do the most for their pets. At MedcoVet, we specialize in advanced home laser therapy for pets. Laser therapy is a safe and effective treatment for common conditions like arthritis and wounds, and it relieves pain for most conditions caused by inflammation. With MedcoVet, pet owners can perform this treatment at home while receiving support from experienced clinicians. If you think your pet would benefit from healing at home, visit medcovet.com, and one of our clinical experts will work with you to determine if home laser therapy is the right fit for you and your pet. Tell them PetAbility sent you.
Our core philosophy, we have safety is our first protocol. The second is that they have fun. And the third is that dogs feel loved.
Welcome to PetAbility. I'm your host, Kathy Simons, certified veterinary technician, certified canine rehabilitation practitioner, and certified hospice and palliative care technician for pets.
And I'm your host, Chris Cranston, licensed physical therapist and small animal physical rehabilitationist.
Our podcast provides interviews and information to help your pets live their best lives.
Hello, Kathy. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Chris. I'm doing all right. I had a fantastic day today because I had a really interesting MedcoVet case. I had this patient who got his tail shut in a door by accident, of course, and had a degloving injury there. And the vet was going to amputate the tip of that tail because that wound wasn't healing. And I was able to get it closed up in about 3 weeks. So it was really a feel-good case. And to see that that dog can have his full wagging tail, of course, that's always the best feeling. But yeah, he didn't have to have surgery. Yeah.
Well, MedcoVet is great for wounds. And, dogs, the tail serves a purpose. They need their tails depending on their breed and so forth. So how many inches was involved in that degloving, Kathy?
It was probably at least 2 inches, but there was bone exposure at the very tip of the tail.
Yeah. If any pet parent out there has had a dog with a tail injury at the tip, they proceed to wag. It doesn't heal because they're wagging, and it causes the appearance of a murder scene in your home because blood goes flying everywhere. So, gosh, that's always a tough injury to get healed. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was wonderful. And it was great to see him back to his full functioning, full wagging tail, and got lots of kisses and a plate full of brownies.
Yeah. So who are we talking with today?
We have a great guest today, our friend Kim Karolides, who is the owner and founder of Butter's House, which is a daycare and boarding facility. This topic came to my mind because I had seen a dog in clinic recently that had an injury that he had sustained at daycare. And it made me start thinking about, how does a pet owner know what is a good and reputable daycare, versus one that's not? And how do we as pet owners know what to look for, what questions to ask, and what are the red flags? So I immediately thought of Kim and Butter's House because this is the model for good, safe daycare and boarding. So I was happy that Kim agreed to come on the show and talk about that today because I think it's a timely topic. People are using daycares and boarding, and we need to make sure that our pets are safe while they're boarding, right? So we need to do our due diligence.
I also, Kathy, over the years have treated a number of dogs that have been injured at daycare. And, I agree. When you brought up this topic, I was like, excellent. Yes. Why haven't we thought of this before? I also, my own dog had an eye injury when she was being boarded at the vet. And of course, it was by no fault of anyone's, but they had a chain linked fence that was separating, I'll say, the larger, more exuberant dogs from the littler, calmer dogs. And my little Cavalier got a little too close to that chain link, and a dog from the other side somehow got through with a paw or a tooth or something. And scratched her cornea. And the good news is it wasn't a big deal. She healed very, very well. And of course, the veterinarian called me right away and explained everything, which I appreciated. But things happen. And so what can we do to ensure the safety of our pets that we love?
Right. And I know Kim in her previous role as the assistant professor and internship coordinator at Mount Ida College when I was working at Sterling Impression. And I would take students from Mount Ida. And what impressed me the most about Kim is that she didn't just teach the clinical aspect of being a technician, but she made sure students were ready to enter the field. So she helped them build confidence in these hands-on skills, and teaching them to stay calm under pressure and understanding what it truly means to work with animals in a professional setting. Compassion, patience, attention to detail, and a steady presence when things are getting tough. And that's one of the things that her students would always relay to me about her. And she prepared hundreds and hundreds of students to enter the field. And Kim has actually been a big supporter of mine. When I came out with my first book, Blind Devotion, I remember her words very clearly. She's like, "You share that loud and proud, Kathy." And so she's always been a big advocate for the veterinary technician. So let me give you a little bit of background on Kim before we get started. Kim and her husband, Bob, are the founder of Butters House that they founded in 2020, probably right in the middle of COVID, it sounds like, right in the middle of that COVID epidemic. They bring over 30 years experience from the animal care world. And it was built on a simple principle: give pets a safe, loving, and comfortable place to stay. And so I'm interested to hear from Kim what she has to say about, how she evaluates dogs for daycare and how she groups them safely and, what to look for when you're vetting a doggy daycare or boarding facility. But I'm also interested to hear about Butters' story. I don't think I know Butters, and I'd like to hear more about that. So our friend Kim is an entrepreneur, an educator, a lifelong animal lover. She spent her years in higher education as an assistant professor and internship coordinator at Mount Ida. And she holds a bachelor's of science from Mount Ida College and a master's of education at Curry College. So please welcome to the show our friend Kim Karolides.
Welcome, Kim. So nice to talk to you again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, I thought of you immediately. I was like, well, who has the model? And I don't know if you remember, you had a student who was a friend of mine, Tanera.
Yeah.
We did a podcast with Tanera because she's the cat lady. And she's like, "Tell Kim I said hi."
That's wonderful.
Amazing. And I was like, yes. And we both said Butters House is the model for what we should be looking for daycares.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm anxious to learn, why it's the model. So Kim, I'm very curious why it's named Butters House. So is there a story there that inspired
Absolutely.
you? Okay.
Absolutely. So when I was a vet tech student, I was gifted a dog I worked overnights, and there was a dog. It was way back when pet stores still sold dogs. So the day practice would take care of the sick pet store puppies. And there was one, he was a yellow lab. I named him Butterbean because he looked like a little bean. And so my goal was to make Butters House a place where every dog could be as happy as Butter was every day of his life.
Aw.
Yeah.
So you took care of this dog? Did you end up adopting or?
What happened was I took care of him in the overnights, and then I guess the pet store didn't want him back, so I got to keep him.
And lucky you.
And lucky him. I was just saying this on another podcast. It's always amazing to me that something so big comes from that once in a lifetime dog, right? That something comes of that because they've inspired you so much. So I'm always impressed by that. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like the universe, like these sliding doors moments, right? Like what if you hadn't been scheduled to work those overnights? Or, what if you cared for a different dog and not Butter? And I thought it was cute because you said he looked like a little bean. I'm sure he did, but also the color, right? Being a yellow lab.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That he's never had a bad day in his life.
No.
So Kim, why don't we jump right in? Because I'm interested to hear, what is your core philosophy when it comes to caring for dogs in a group setting?
We'll be right back.
If you're a pet owner who wants real talk on training,
behavior, and everyday life with animals, check out the Fresh Patch Podcast. Hosted by Drew and Gabe, we cover the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. So wherever you listen, search the Fresh Patch Podcast, where good pets get it.
Our core philosophy, we have safety is our first protocol. The second is that they have fun, the dogs have fun. And the third is that dogs feel loved. So safety is absolutely the first philosophy. And we do that in a lot of ways. We keep our numbers small. So there's only 8 to 10 dogs per one person per one play yard. And we have 4 play yards. It allows the handlers to get to know the dogs to get to know the handlers. Over time, we know exactly what dog likes which dog.
I think it's a common misconception that our dogs, because obviously, as Kathy alluded to earlier, you do an intake, right? You meet the dog, you have an idea of their personality and their temperament. But even with that, you could attempt to match 2 dogs or a dog within a group and it doesn't work out. We can't just assume that these dogs, based on our assessment, are going to be friends. And so you have to constantly be reassessing and observing, right? And determine where they're happiest.
We understand that not every dog is going to enjoy group play. So we tell owners that, and we tell them it's not a failure of the dog by any means, but maybe this dog just wants to hang out at home, and that's perfectly acceptable.
There may also be a misconception that dogs are grouped by size. Are they grouped by play style more likely than size?
We do it by age, play style, and temperament. So is it an easygoing dog? We put them with easygoing dogs. We do not mix small and large dogs for safety. Too many issues arise when that happens, and something happens to a dog in my own family when they were put with larger dogs.
I was counseled about that because I was thinking about bringing in a larger kind of a bully breed. And I had my Cavalier, and having gone to work with me and having met several dogs and being completely fine with all dogs, all sizes, somebody that was much smarter than me said, that's not a good idea, Chris, because you're bringing in a younger puppy, very exuberant, that's big and doofy. And by accident, they could hurt, your little Cavalier. Right. So, I like that you have kind of a multi-pronged approach when you're, looking at how you might match them up.
And we have just instituted a new policy where we have a meet and greet. So we meet the parents, we meet the dog. And what we have now is we have a welcome week, which is 5 days over 2 weeks, where we ease the dog in. We get to know the dog. We find out what the dog likes, what the dog doesn't like, what games they like to play, what snacks they like. They don't meet another dog until day 3. So we get them used to our facility, inside, outside. We get them to meet every single person that works here. We just want them to ease in and be comfortable. And if we find out at the end or even in the middle that the dog just doesn't want to be here, we just let the people know. And I think it's a fair way to evaluate a dog's behavior in daycare.
Right. Well, certainly versus throwing them right into the fire.
Right. Yeah. We used to do a 4-hour evaluation. That's not long enough.
Yeah. And I think the dog's probably the true personality, and that dog's going to come out in that couple of days, right? And see where, and see where he's at as far as easygoing, or is he a hard player, or I like that. Good. Yeah.
So Kim, if there are injuries, I mean, obviously we're doing everything we can to prevent them. Can you describe in your experience what the most common types of injuries are in a, like a group play setting?
So the most common injury would be like a nick or a tooth scrape, because some of these dogs, they play roughly. A bite could happen. That rarely happens. That I don't remember when the last time that has happened.
So I didn't know if there are musculoskeletal injuries or, anything like that. There may not be. I have no idea.
Not here, not as of yet, but I can just picture in my mind some dog running crazy and tearing its ACL at daycare. I could see that happening.
That can happen anywhere, right?
Exactly.
Well, and I think that's important for folks to know too, because just because an injury happens at daycare, mean that it was the fault of daycare. You know, it could have happened at home. It could have been, when you're with your dog at the park. It could have been at any time. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And when dogs play together, somebody might get nipped.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's no fault.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
Yep.
So when we've already kind of touched on all of this, and you said that you keep small staff to dog ratios. What kind of training do you call them handlers? What kind of training do the handlers have? And what do you ask them to look for in terms of their duties and being attentive while they're on?
Excellent question. And by the way, we call them daycare wizards.
Excellent.
They're so valuable to us. So most of our daycare wizards come from other facilities. So they come from other daycares. And so they bring knowledge with them. And then through that, we train them to look for all sorts of body language. The nervous dog, the shy dog, one that might have fear aggression, things like that. So we teach them all of that. We used to use dog gurus. And so they have a lot of good videos that all of our people watch.
Is that a website, Kim?
It's a company. Yep.
Oh. So for those out there that may be interested in setting up their own daycare, there are resources online that they can utilize to help them to provide good training and such.
Absolutely.
Kim, can we talk a little bit about your therapeutic boarding? Because I know from our history together that you will take animals that have some disabilities or maybe some physical impairment or seniors. So I'm interested to hear about your therapeutic boarding. How do you support these seniors or animals that have some type of physical impairment or maybe even a sensory impairment?
These are my favorite dogs. Absolutely my favorite. And so it's different with each dog. So we will meet with the owner and the dog, get the dog to like us. And then we go over what a day in the dog's life is like at home. We come up with a plan that we go over with the owner. For example, an older dog who can't be out in group play, but still likes other dogs, can be paired with another older dog and go into what we have as a scent room. So the scent room has all sorts of smells, all sorts of activities that they can do one-on-one with a person or with another dog. They get more one-on-one time. They get leash walked to the bathroom all the time. They get belly rubs, things like that. We have a heart failure dog coming in on Thursday night just for one night. And he's bringing his list of medications, and it's just the sweetest dog ever. So we've learned that the dog doesn't really play much, but likes to look at other dogs. So we'll sit in your lap. So we will have him in Smallville, which is where we keep all the small dogs.
Smallville.
So that he can watch them play and get people time and dog time.
What fantastic environmental enrichment, really, for these senior dogs. Chris and I talk about this all the time for senior dogs. Maybe our senior dogs can't go for that 3-mile walk, but that doesn't mean they can't sniff or forage or roll in the grass or sit in the sun or watch other dogs, or be with other dogs. So great environmental enrichment for our senior dogs.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, let's elaborate on that a little bit more. What kind of activities and enrichment do you provide for, let's say, the quote
regular
unquote
dog?
Normal? Yeah, the regular dog.
Exactly.
Is any dog regular? Because I don't even think any person is
know.
regular, right? We all have our own thing.
So you know how certain breeds love the tennis ball and certain breeds love to go down like a rat hole and find things. So we set up activities around what the dog would like. So for example, if you look in I call it the sniffarium, because we have so many scents. The things you can find online are incredible, like coyote urine, bobcat urine, things like that. And we we hide them around the room. So you'll go in, it looks almost like a child's play area. So there's a big pool that has those balls in it, and you can hide treats in there for those that like to search and sniff. There's music, there's bubbles. There are boxes that we can hide things in. There are things to climb on. There's aspects of nature. So pine branches for them to sniff and get different textures on their feet. There's sand for them to dig in, all sorts of things. So it's whatever the creative mind can come up with.
The options are limitless, Kim.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it as you're talking from a rehabber's perspective. All of that's engaging the pets in movement. Like coyote urine may not seem exciting to us,
Right.
right? But it's extremely pleasing, for the
It is.
dog.
They love it.
Right. And then when you're thinking about different textures that they're walking on, that's
Yeah.
proprioceptive. That's proprioceptive feedback. To go
Yep.
from sand to mulch to
Yep.
ground. Yeah. So that's great. I love all that.
Let's remind our audience about our senses.
Yep.
So there you were just talking about touch through their feet and that challenges balance and agility and all of that too. They see the world, I use the word see in quotes, but through their nose. So providing those sense is so valuable and number one. And then you already mentioned like the geriatric dog or the medically challenged dog or disabled dog, just observing and watching, but all the regular dogs too are getting visual stimulation through, different objects and colors and all of that. And then you have the sounds. Do you do anything in terms of auditory, Kim?
So we have a little Alexa pod or whatever it's called, and you can play bird sounds. You can play rain sounds, all sorts of things. So when we have a themed month, we generally play sounds that go with the theme of the month, like in airplanes, because it's travel month.
I like it. There actually have been some studies in shelters with animals that respond well to having classical music played. They rest more, they bark less when they have this calming, music played.
Classical for pets plays on Alexa overnight here.
Right.
So that's what.
And conversely, they were barking more with, like heavy metal or rock metal, which makes sense. But think of the mental expenditure too. Like this is great for our dogs because the mental expenditure alone, I think when they get home, they're like, whew, that was a great day. I'm tired.
And we have found unwanted behaviors decrease through use of our enrichment. Clients have said to us, we said, let's just try this for your dog. So we try it. And after a few sessions, they say, when he gets home, behavior is better.
Right,
I bet.
Because they're working their brains too.
Yes.
And that can be exhausting.
Yes.
And Kim, when you were, going through all the things that you provide, one of the senses that we didn't touch on overtly there was taste, but you had already mentioned like putting treats in various places and, digging for them, hunting for them, sniffing them out. So then you're covering all five senses. But what really resonated with me is, Kathy, remember a long time ago when we interviewed Amanda Shine, who got her PhD in enrichment and worked with all kinds of animals. But what I didn't realize is that the true definition of enrichment is providing those activities that the animal is already inclined to do based on who they are. So like you said, a Jack Russell is going to want to go through a tunnel and a coonhound is going to want to, sniff along the ground all day long. And, those kinds of things. That's fantastic. I'm so excited.
I know. I told you it was a great place there. I told you. It's all playing into my mind, like as Kim's talking about how it relates to rehab and function and mental expenditure and environmental enrichment. And those are the things that we're always doing in rehab, right? Those are all the things we're doing. So I'm a big fan of that.
It sounds like all of these special things are just part of their daycare. This is not an add-on in terms of cost or special activity or anything, Kim?
Some things are.
Okay.
So certain activities where we send home the paw prints and things like that, those are add-ons.
Okay.
But our entire philosophy is about enrichment. So if you have 6 dogs in a play yard, the person there is not standing there on their phone. They're, getting them to see if they can all sit together. They're doing follow the leader, various activities like that, which is enrichment as well.
Yeah. I would think that would also be more enriching for your staff in terms of retention. They're not just standing around mindlessly watching dogs in a room. So they're learning behavior, how to engage them, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. And that's got to be just great for your wizards as well.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to switch gears here a little bit because I'm wondering what protocols do you have in place to prevent the spread of illness? Because I know that one dog could be ground zero, Yeah. So what do you do? What do you have in place to help prevent that?
So we have requirements for vaccines, rabies, bordetella, distemper, and we require a fecal every 6 months. And I think it was the second year we were open, someone caught kennel cough, which we're not supposed to call it kennel cough anymore. And then it spread. And so what we had to do was we backtracked through our reservation list and notified every single person that could have come in contact with it. And then we shut down for 2 weeks so we could disinfect the entire building. Even if a dog walks in to daycare and sneezes, we're like, yeah, you can't come to daycare today.
It's like kids, you got to call your mom. You got to go home.
But another part of it is just clean, clean, clean. So I think this business has benefited from my husband and my experience in veterinary medicine, because you can't have healthy, happy animals unless it's clean.
Right.
So you won't smell urine when you walk in here, because that's unacceptable. And that's just what all of our people are the same way now.
And it does. It's clean, clean, clean. Because I've been there. It doesn't even smell like disinfectant or urine. No. It's a clean facility. So,
do you allow visitors to tour your facilities? Is
Absolutely.
It transparent?
Completely transparent. We don't take walk-ins because we don't know where we're going to be at any moment in time. But everyone that comes in for a meet and greet absolutely gets a complete tour, and we generally decide where your animal would be best for a boarding, but we'll show you all of them and say, we think this area is best for your dog. Yep. They get the complete tour inside and out.
Would you consider it a red flag if a facility did not allow you to see every part of the facility?
Absolutely. That is a huge red flag. And so many places deny that, saying that, it'll upset the dogs.
Yes.
You know what? Mm-hmm. The dogs will see you, they'll bark, and then they'll go back about their business. You're not, gravely harming any animal to walk through. Absolutely not. There's no excuse. In fact, when we were thinking about building this, I tried some daycares, went in. Can I see where my dog's going to stay? No, you can't. No. Why? Well, we just don't do that. But you can go online and see a video that we created. Yeah.
Don't look over here.
Right? Exactly. So I was thinking that we should do an open house to let people come see.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we move on, Kathy, you were asking about illness, and Kim, you said we're not supposed to call it kennel cough anymore.
Right.
It's bordetella is the illness. Is that right?
Yeah. And now it's canine upper respiratory infection.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's because they could get it in other places.
And dog daycare owners get the brunt of it, because you take a dog that has a cough to any veterinarian, and I'd say 75% of them will say, they got it at daycare.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so is ventilation important then?
Yeah, ventilation is very important. We have a ventilation system that changes the air throughout the facility, and we think that helps tremendously. Yeah.
And what about things like, I'm kind of dwelling on the environment at this point and the design. What about things like flooring? Kathy and I always talk about traction and how imperative that is for preventing injury. I know you have outside yards, but when they're inside, is there special flooring?
We had epoxy poured throughout the facility, and I was able to pick the colors, and also I put glitter in it, and then you can, I love it. But you can, depending on how anti-slippery you want it to be, you can add 1, 2, 3 ever of grit so that it becomes less and less slippery as you go on.
Kim, we kind of alluded to this earlier when we were talking about pricing and what's included in pricing. Do you have things that are, I'm going to call it a la carte? Like, what if I came in and was like, you know what, Kim, I think my dog needs his toenails trimmed. Do you add those services on, or extra treats? My dog needs a peanut butter Kong in the afternoon, kind of thing.
Yep. We have all sorts of things. We have, like I mentioned before, we have belly rubs. We have solitary walks. We're in an industrial park, so there's a lot of walkways that have been created for the people that work in these buildings, and they don't mind that we use them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
So yes, we can do that. We can do all the way up to like a lavender spritz on the bedding before the dog goes to sleep. We have so many things to offer.
I want that.
I know.
I want that. That's awesome. I love that you can have these add-ons if you want as well. That's really great. And, going back to the enrichment, I mean, come on. The
medical, the therapeutic dogs and the older dogs, they get an activity every 2 days for complimentary in the tent room.
Can you just talk about how your experience as a veterinary technician, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but just the fact that you guys are two veterinary technicians with 30 years experience, can we just let the audience know the big role that actually plays in the health and the well-being of your animals that you're taking care of, that you're in charge of? How does that play in? Like picking up on things that are maybe potential illnesses or something like that?
Absolutely, Kathy. Absolutely. So we've trained our staff to be extremely observant of what's normal and what's not normal, that we can bring it up to the pet parent when they come to get the dog. We can see things that might become a problem. We might notice something about, a dog's eyes or the way a dog walks. So my veterinary technology background has served me immeasurably.
Right.
Because how the three of us can see a dog walk and know what's wrong, like which limb it is.
Right.
Yeah. It's that sort of thing.
It's so beneficial too. Hey, I think your dog might be something's going on with their ear. They've been shaking their head all day, or they've been drooling. I don't know. Maybe they're something's going on in their mouth. So I think that's invaluable.
Yeah. It also helps that we know so they tell us what medications, we know what they're for.
Right.
We don't just give them. Yeah.
And you said too that, like the wizards get to know the dogs and vice versa. So any change in behavior or physical appearance could just be the first sign, that the pet parent might not even be privy to.
Yes.
But because you're with them hours a day, potentially every day, when you see, maybe just a little more lethargy, they're not playing as much as they previously had, something going on there.
Yep. We do ask that. We say, if a dog is having an off day where they're usually just, just happy to be here, we will say to the client, Susie was a little off today. Is there anything happening at home? And it always turns out that, the contractors are at the house. Son just moved out, went to college. So, yeah.
Yep. Because they're emotional.
Sentient beings, and they're like, I don't like contractors being at the house. I don't like
contractors.
Poor contractors.
I know. You get the bad rap.
So, Kim, you do provide not only daycare, but also overnight boarding.
Yes.
Do you have staff that stays with them overnight?
Absolutely. I could not see myself leaving my dog at a place, paying someone to take care of my dog if there's no one in the building. I remember working in veterinary medicine, and there were day practices that would put an IV catheter into an animal and then go home for the night.
Yep.
I never understood how that doesn't make any sense to me. So it didn't make any sense when we opened this to not have them attended.
It happens a lot though.
Yeah.
And when you hear those horror stories about like fires.
Yes. Yep.
That's terrifying.
Yep. We have sprinklers all throughout this building.
Do you have cameras?
We do, but they're only for us to use. And this is because when I had a dog in daycare and they had cameras, I would look and I say, well, why is he not doing anything? And then the people would say, well, he was just playing. So I get it. The perception of watching your dog throughout the day on a camera could be, why isn't he doing anything? And then you go to lunch and then you come back. He's still not, why is he napping now? And it's also because people do stay overnight. And for the first 2 years, my husband and I, we lived here only because we just lived here. We lived 15 minutes down the road, but we just lived here. And I didn't need people to see me taking a shower in the dog tub.
She's walking around in her bathrobe, cup of coffee.
Or not.
Or not. Yeah. Kim, do you take any other boarders in or daycare, like cats or any other exotics, just for
Sure.
People go away? Yeah.
Yes. Anything I've been taught to care for, we can care for. We had one kitten for daycare. And just because the gentleman didn't know what to do with his kitten. So we played with his kitten all day.
Oh.
But we've had birds, we've had mice, we have had hamsters, we have had guinea pigs, and we're getting a lizard.
Excellent. Love to be paid to play with the kitten all day.
I know. It was wonderful.
Me too. I can't believe that people go to other jobs where there are no animals. Like, I don't understand
I know.
that.
I don't understand.
I don't understand that. Kim, can we talk a little bit about, just for a few minutes, I know we kind of touched on this, but like, who's not a good candidate for daycare?
That's a good question. I think we have one now in our welcome week. And so in the initial meet and greet, the dog was terrified. The dog, I know, and I feel so bad. I guess I can't give you a specific, but it's each dog. But dogs do age out of daycare. Oh. So I wouldn't put a 10-year-old dog in daycare. In fact, I'd stretch even to put a 7-year-old in daycare unless they absolutely loved it.
So, well, I'm going to make a presumption that probably most fairly astute pet owners are going to self-select. They're probably going to have an idea if their dog is going to do well at a daycare. Mm-hmm. Those that are like super, anxious or, aggressive or, for whatever reason, because it can be various reasons, right? Mm-hmm. Fear or pain or what have you, are not going to probably seek out the services. But it's interesting you said age out. I know somebody, I worked with her, and she had 2 older labs, and she felt, and I think it was, kind of her projecting on her pets, that they should go to daycare at least twice a week because they needed that stimulation. They had gone there for years. It was part of their routine. And and then I also knew people that knew these dogs and worked at this particular facility. And they said that they would just lie together in the corner all day long. Those 2 labs. Yes, they were observing and and so forth. But, I always had kind of this sad image. They weren't happy. I mean, I don't know, but if they're not interacting, if they're just lying there and kind of distancing themselves from the fray, I'm like, well, but Kim, also this facility, and I told Kathy about this before we came on, very, very large facility near where I worked. So again, I had a lot of experience with some pets that went there, but also I got a lot of my staff from there. And I love the fact that they were interested in working with animals, that they'd had experience in handling, observing, and I could train them up to do the things that I needed them to do to assist swimming dogs or restore what have you. But the stories they would tell were not great. Yes.
No.
Yes. Nope. And the ratios were really bad. Sometimes it would be 1 or 2 people to 30 or 40 dogs.
Yeah, that's way too many.
And then using things, like squirt bottles, other what I would call to be kind of punishing, right?
Yes.
In terms of to stop behaviors and, get the dogs to calm down. And I see that in the quote daycares of big box stores too. The staff person is standing there with a squirt bottle, and that is not teaching the pet anything positive.
You're right. There are some people who think my dog should go to daycare. And then there are those people who have a 3-year-old dog. They bring them in saying, he needs to be socialized. And I say, that time has probably passed.
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
Mm-hmm. And as much as you think your dog should go, we're not going to solve your sociability problem. And that is not what we advertise. We only want happy dogs to come here. And that doesn't mean your dog's not the best dog in the world, but, he's not, probably happier at home.
That's because we all know that my dog is the best dog in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you ensure appropriate rest and prevent the dogs from becoming overstimulated?
We do what's known as rest and rotate. So if we have 4 daycare wizards and we have 4 outdoor play yards, plus the littles have their own. So we take 4 groups out at a time. They play. Then they come in and rest in their houses, and another 4 groups go out. So they get rest, socialization, then they get rest, then they get socialization and games and things like that. So we don't ask the dogs to be outside for 6 to 8 hours a day, because if you think of being home, the dog wants to go out, dog wants to come in, the dog wants to go out, dog wants to come in. So they need time to rest between activities. So that's what we do. That's how we provide that.
It's kind of like restoring, right? Like,
yes.
yeah.
If you thought about spending 6 hours outside with just a few people, like I'd pull my hair out.
I would too. I
need my downtime.
Yes, I need my downtime.
Yeah. And like you said, it's structured and it's not just a free play all day,
right,
for all, even when they are outside.
Yep.
So I would think that there would be, if one of your wizards saw that the dog was getting a little bit hyper or overstimulated, there would be action taken to like calm it down, maybe separate it from the pack, that kind of thing, in addition to the structured rest and rotate times.
Absolutely. So if the dog's getting, overexcited, maybe getting a little on his threshold, we simply call inside and someone can come out and bring the dog back in for restings.
Yep. And then do you find with this very thought out methodology, your processes, that do your pet owners report that their dog's behavior actually improves over time with going to daycare versus becoming more, that they become more anxious or more untrainable? Because again, in lesser facilities, people have reported that to me. Like they used to be very obedient and well-trained, and now they won't listen to me at all. And they're, aggressive toward other dogs. Blah, blah, blah.
That's not right.
No, that's not right. No, I have seen everybody that comes here loves our daycare. If someone sees a problem at home, that if they mention it, like the dog's jumping out, but it's never that the behavior has been worse. So what we do is we will tell the people, your dog is humping all the other dogs. You need to get it neutered. It can't come back until it's not humping. Things like that. So we try to work with the owners if there's any behavior issues. We are not trainers by any means, but a well socialized dog is well behaved at home.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you said neutered, so they're not required to be spayed and neutered to come to your facility.
Nope,
wow.
They're not.
That is amazing.
We keep them separate, of course. And but any issues come up, that dog is gone until the issues are gone.
Wow.
How about the breeds that have been labeled more, I'm going to say,
difficult?
With the tendency for aggression, maybe like the bully breeds. Right. Are the bully breeds welcome?
Yes, the bully breeds are welcome. We take every dog on its own merit.
That's wonderful, because there are some daycares that exclude them based on breed.
Right.
So good. Good for you.
We did turn one dog down just for its size. It was a cane corso and it was upward of like 180 pounds or something.
Wow.
If we can't control your dog on a walk, your dog really isn't fit for here.
Right.
You should trample over everybody that works here.
Well, again, I've seen injuries and temperament changes and things like that, behavioral changes. And I've been kind of that mindset, I think that it's like sending a kid to recess all day.
Yeah.
It's going to be awful. You should not do that. Why?
They get overtired.
Your dog through that. And then ultimately because you have to bring them home again. And they're
exactly
could be just like nutso off the wall, like eating sugar all day. So I have just a couple of other, Kim, we were talking about, some of the obviously very thoughtful, again, design that went into your facility. There's outside play yards. You said that there is you're part of an industrial park. How do you control noise for your neighbors? Is that an issue? And like, what what if you have dogs in the facility that are sound sensitive and get stressed out with barking? Like, is that something you need to address, or because you're doing all these other things, barking really isn't a problem?
Barking can be a problem. And so we do address it with the clients, because if a dog is barking constantly, then they're either bored or upset about something. So we try to address the issue with the dog first, like get the dog, engaged in more activities, things like that, because I certainly don't want any dog to be bored here. And we also we put soundproofing up on the walls, these like baffles for the inside, because I'm more worried about the sound inside than I am outside. We have one neighbor that is a house, but it's a house in an industrial park. So we are zoned legally to be here, and they only complained once. They complained to the police, who came out and said they couldn't hear a thing and that we're within our rights. So it's very important, if you're going to start a daycare, to make sure the zoning is correct. Because if you have a special permit, they can pull that at any time.
I didn't hear a lot of barking when I came to visit. Everybody was playing. And even when I went outside to look at them, they were like, hey, and then they went back to their business. It felt very family-ish, like all the wizards knew everybody's name, and they knew that Charlie likes whatever the ball, but Susie doesn't. It was really impressive. Yeah.
I just know, like, where I live now, if the neighbor's dog comes out and barks, which he's doing more recently, then my dogs will bark. It's that kind of contagious effect. And so I thought, gosh, if you have, 40 dogs there at a time.
I'm not saying that it's always quiet. In the mornings, it's louder than in the afternoons. So the afternoons, and they've been out 2 or 3 times, you can walk through and everybody's just like snoozing.
So
that's good.
That is good. Morning time is exciting. Everybody just got there.
Like,
they're saying hello.
Back. Yeah.
They're saying hi to their friends, and it's exciting. So
Kim, so as we're, getting closer to the end of our show, I just didn't know, can you summarize some of the common mistakes that you've seen in other daycare facilities, when you were doing your research? I think a lot of times it's not so much what we want to provide as what we don't want to do.
Number one, the biggest red flag is if they refuse to show you around their building on the inside, because it immediately makes me think, what are you hiding? And how can I leave my dog with you? Another thing is, does it smell? Because if it smells, they're not putting in the hard work that needs to be done to keep the facility clean. So that says to me, you're not going to do the hard work when it comes to my dog, because dogs don't like that smell either.
Yeah, their sense of smell is so much more sensitive than ours. So you can imagine how off-putting that may be for them.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing for safety is, where are the dogs playing? Like, we're constantly inspecting our fences, and we have slats through our fences so the dogs can't touch each other if their play areas are next to each other. So just asking as many questions as you can. Does someone stay overnight with the dogs? What's your fire protection? Things like that. And don't be afraid to ask, because I've asked clients that come here, well, what did they say when you told them that your dog was nicked at daycare, or your dog came home with a bloody leg? Well, they said they didn't ask, or they said they didn't know. And that's a big red flag too.
Or get defensive.
Yes.
Get super defensive.
What enrichment do they do? And how often do the dogs get to rest? Because I've seen too many places with 30 or 40 dogs outside all day, and it's just awful. And who do you hire? Ask them who they hire and where they get their training, because there are so many high school kids that want to work here, and then they get disappointed because we just ask them to help us clean, because you know nothing about dogs, little high school person who's wonderful, and we love you.
Well, ladies, this was wonderful, and
so much fun.
It was so much fun. And Kim, as we're closing up, I would like you to tell people, where can they find Butters House? Where are you located? And how can they reach out to you? What's your contact, your website or your email?
Absolutely. So we are located in Milford, Massachusetts, and our website is buttershouse.org.
Wonderful. Yep. And are you taking in new clients,
we're
Kim?
taking new clients. Yes, we
Awesome.
are.
Excellent.
Yay.
Good. Well, Kim, I have so many good things to say about you and kind
I
things.
know, you're
because-
so sweet.
Well, I see the level of the veterinary technicians that you put out into the world, right? And I still am in contact with a lot of those students.
Yes.
And they're phenomenal. And
They
you
are.
prepared them for this. And being a veterinary technician, despite what the world thinks about what we may do, is not an easy job.
No.
And not everyone is cut out for it. And you prepared them for this profession well. They went into it well educated and with an understanding of the profession. So I always admire that about you. I admire you that you're always an advocate for the veterinary technicians, loud and proud. You go out there and tell everybody. Go out and tell everybody. And the fact that you're the model, that Butters House is the model for daycares is just wonderful. I think that dogs and cats and any other animals.
Yes, we do cats as well.
That need care, need to go somewhere where people understand their needs and their behaviors and their wants, and be a part of the family and be part of that group. And you've done it. You've done it very, very well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for talking with us, and thank you for all the things that you've done.
Well, thank you both. This was so much fun. We should meet every day and chit chat for an hour.
Yes. I wish Butters House was closer to where I live. Unfortunately, you're a couple hours away. But again, thanks for what you do. This was a great discussion today, and I'm sure it gave our listeners a lot of fodder to consider.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our show.
Follow us on social media at PetAbility Podcast.
And please check out our affiliates and sponsors.
Simply go to the show notes for information and links.
Thank you, and tune in next time.